This is episode 124 of the Rethink Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Isaacs. This week, we chat with Bradley Benner, founding partner at Semantic Mastery, about why click-through rate and website engagement are important factors for your SEO and attracting new business. In our interview, we cover some of the latest SEO trends, why click-through rate is important, how to measure it, and how to improve your results. Enjoy the conversation, and we hope that you can get one or two takeaways that you can bring to your business.
Welcome to the Rethink Marketing Podcast, brought to you by Act-On Software. We chat with interesting professionals who are rethinking how they approach strategy, marketing, sales, and more. Listen to get insightful, actionable tips.
Welcome back to the Rethink Marketing Podcast. I'm here today with Bradley Benner, the founding partner for Semantic Mastery. Bradley, welcome to the show. Can you tell me more about yourself and Semantic Mastery?
Sure. And hi, thanks for having me, Nathan. I appreciate you having me on today. So Semantic Mastery, we are essentially a digital marketing training company. And what we specialize in is helping other marketers learn how to do digital marketing and lead generation, primarily for local businesses. So a little bit about my background is I have my own agency. I got started in digital marketing and lead generation back in 2010, primarily with search engine optimization, trying to get web properties ranked in Google that could then produce phone calls and leads for local businesses. I've got a contracting background. I was an electrical contractor, so naturally I kind of gravitated towards producing leads for or generating leads for contractors. And that's really why I got started, was I wanted to start generating leads for my own electrical business. But I kind of fell in love with the whole search engine optimization process and really became almost obsessed with it. and when I started getting good at that, I realized that I could actually probably make a better living doing digital marketing and providing that lead generation service for other contractors than I could doing electrical work. So I really shifted my entire business into the digital marketing space. And around 2012, after about 2 years of building websites for contractors and generating leads, I decided to open up my own agency, which is called Big Bamboo Marketing. And then around 2013, I actually got connected with a group of other digital marketers. We were in a weekly accountability group that I had founded and really just started and we would get on Google Hangouts and just meet once a week and just chat about, we each had our own digital marketing agencies, and we would just chat about what was working in our own businesses, what wasn't working, how to get better results, and just sharing information. And we did that for, 6 or 8 months before we realized that we had as good information in our group as we had seen anywhere online that we would pay for. As far as, training products and information products and other mastermind groups that were paid mastermind groups and that kind of thing. And so there's four other guys and myself that we decided that we wanted to go into sharing what we were doing among ourselves in the group with the greater or a broader audience, essentially. And so we decided to create a business out of it. And that's what, in 2013, we launched Semantic Mastery. And ever since then, we've been providing digital marketing training for want-to-be agency owners or solopreneurs that want to get into digital marketing. And again, primarily with a focus on local lead generation and local SEO and that kind of stuff. And it's been really good. One of the things that we've done is created a weekly webinar series. It's a Q&A, a digital marketing question and answer session that we have every Wednesday. It's called Hump Day Hangouts, and we do that at 4 p.m. Eastern. And that has been probably the best thing for our own business, because we have it's a 1 hour long webinar where we just ask questions that are submitted by anybody that wants to attend. It's free. And it's been great for us. That's really what's given us produced the majority of our audience, and our customers have come from our YouTube channel and from our consistent marketing. We've been doing that for, I think this week is actually episode 229. So we're in well over 4 years. We've been doing it every single week, and that's been really, really good. But so in a nutshell, Semantic Mastery is we teach digital marketing to mainly other marketers or people that want to be marketers and agency owners, but we are trying to expand our reach into actually teaching direct to small business owners.
Okay. Well, and you talk about the hump day hangouts. It's you can. I mean, that right there is just an example of just consistent, content marketing, right? And building your brand and showing your expertise. That could be the topic of today's show in and of itself, of how you've done that. You think about Moz and what Rand Fishkin did with his Whiteboard Fridays, doing the same sort of thing. Just consistently educating audience, generating leads that way. But we're here to talk about click-through rate and engagement being the new SEO. And before we get into that, I was just wondering if you can give us any updates about any big SEO trends that B2B businesses or local businesses should be paying attention to here in the last few months, last year.
Absolutely. I think right now, hands down, the most effective thing for local businesses especially is the Google My Business platform, which a lot of you, if you're not already familiar with Google My Business, it's essentially Google Maps. But the Google Maps now has become so much more. It's got the title Google My Business, and Google provides all these free tools and assets that you can create within the dashboard, and they're 100% free. Now, you can obviously include pay-per-click marketing, so you can use the Google Ads platform if you want to jumpstart traffic and that kind of stuff. But the Google My Business platform itself provides a lot of tools or makes available a lot of tools, and they're all free. And it's incredibly powerful. I mean, we all know, I hope, that 70% of all search traffic originates from Google. And out of that, about 6 or 7 out of all searches now for search queries with local intent originate from mobile devices. And the Google My Business platform is really developed specifically to market or to expose businesses to mobile device users that are searching for search queries with local intent. So one of the things that is absolutely incredible is the near me search phrases. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably done this yourselves, where you've searched for, restaurants near me, or Mexican restaurant near me, or pet store near me, or whatever the case may be, or some variation thereof of the near me search modifier. So it could be close to me, close by, in my area, any one of those types of terms. And that is a huge driver of traffic right now and leads for local businesses. And a lot of businesses aren't aware of how to capitalize on that at the moment. But that's where Google My Business platform comes in, because it provides all these free tools that you can use to actually specifically address mobile device use. I mean, it works for laptops and desktop searches as well. But again, since 6 or 7 of all searches now originate from mobile devices, it's really built specifically to expose businesses to mobile device users. And it's really, really effective. And so that's something that we have really gone into is developing out processes and systems and training essentially for how to utilize the Google My Business platform for local businesses to get the best results and to generate the most leads. And it's interesting because it's actually independent of traditional SEO, in that traditional SEO, we all think about having to rank, right? If you put in a search query, you want to see the website ranked, or if you're talking about a maps listing, you want to see that maps listing actually ranked in the maps section of the search engine results page, which now we call a 3-pack. But with Google My Business, you can actually generate leads from Google My Business without it even being ranked in the maps pack itself. And it's really crazy how that happens. But that one of the most effective strategies for that is using the Google My Business posts, which are just like social media posts or updates. It's like a blog from within your Maps dashboard or your Google My Business dashboard. And so it's those posts are actually, again, they're catered specifically to mobile device users. And we've developed ways to target the near me search queries that sounds very natural, but when people will start to search for, again, like, hardware store near me, then we can have our posts actually show up for them. And if you know how to utilize that type of a strategy as a local business, then you can really start to generate a lot more traffic from Google, even if your so-called traditional rankings aren't as well as, as good as you would like them to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just wondering, are you seeing any sort of connection between that, Google My Business and mobile searches and voice? Is there any, it seems very like it's the next evolution, right? I have a home device, but people could be using their Alexa or whatever, not Alexa, whatever the Siri is on their mobile device and asking if they're driving. A lot of states you can't be typing this stuff in as you're driving. You just want to know where the dry cleaner's at. Are you seeing any connection between the voice search and some of the Google My Business yet?
Yeah, actually, there is a whole whole nother subset of SEO that is starting to be developed around those type of voice search devices. Like you said, Alexa, Siri is one of them. Well, Google has the little microphone icon for mobile devices, so you can just speak your search directly to Google. There's also the Google Home. So there's a lot of those different types of devices that you can actually optimize for. Now, I haven't gotten into a lot of that just yet, but as far as just voice, verbalizing your search query into Google, absolutely. And the reason why, and here's the thing, like there's been, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but there was some updates in Google's algorithm that specifically addressed this, even as far back as 2014 or 15 timeframe, which was called like the Google Hummingbird update, which was around that update was specifically addressing voice search direct to Google, because naturally search queries have become more complex when people speak their search query as opposed to typing it in. So, for example, people would typically, and again, this was all the way back as far as 2014, 15 timeframe around there, where people would typically search for, like, for example, electrician Culpeper, VA, right? That's where I live, is in Culpeper, Virginia. But if somebody was looking for an electrician or electrical contractor, they would type in a very short, succinct query with a local modifier, like the city name, for example. But now, because of mobile search, like I was just talking about, with the ability to speak your search query into it, they've become a lot more complex. And so Google's algorithm had to evolve to be able to, first of all, recognize speech patterns and natural language patterns, but also to handle more complex queries. And that's where, again, having the type of queries that people search for from mobile devices, especially through voice, but both through voice and through typing them out, which, by the way, how many of you actually ever really fully type out a search query on a mobile device? It's very rare, right? When you start to type a search query in in Google from a mobile device, what happens when you tap the search bar to start typing? Well, half of the screen gets taken up by the keyboard, and the other half, as soon as you start typing, is taken up by Google's suggested search queries. And so it's very rare that people actually ever really fully type out a search query. They'll usually start typing one, and as soon as they see a suggested search query that either satisfies what they were going to search for anyways or is very close to it, they'll just tap that suggested search query. And so if you understand that, you can also optimize for those suggested search queries. Same thing goes with voice. If you can understand how people, and obviously everybody's different, but there are patterns or trends in how people will search using a voice query. And if you can understand those and optimize for those, and essentially that's just through content, through your website, or as we're talking about, through the Google My Business platform, then you can actually be optimized for those specific search queries, both the suggested ones as well as voice search queries. And that's where, again, using the Google My Business platform and Google Posts, or what I call GMB posts, those are a great way to address those specific type of queries, so that when somebody is searching from a mobile device, you will show up, or at least your posts will, which ultimately leads back to your business profile, your Google My Business profile, which has all your contact information and even lead capture now.
Wow. I'm definitely going to have to go and check out some of these Hump Day Hangouts, because I know you've been talking about Google My Business quite a bit there. With B2B marketers and all businesses really obsess about click-through rate metrics, and I think when I think about that, I'm thinking about my emails and landing pages or my pay-per-click ads. But how does it relate to SEO?
That's a great question. That's something that's really, really interesting. If you mentioned Rand Fishkin and Moz just recently, but every single year they come out with a search, like what are the biggest ranking factors that influence search results. And one of the things that surpassed traditional links and a lot of the traditional metrics for what helps a website to rank in Google was CTR, click-through rate. And that passed, I think, 2, maybe 3 years ago now, to where that is the number one ranking signal. And it's not just the click-through rate in itself. It's a matter of click-through rate and engagement. And so, yes, I understand what you were saying about click-through rate from emails and from ads, for example. That's absolutely right. One of the things you always want to optimize for is trying to improve your click-through rate, which means a lot of that is accomplished by having compelling ad copy, right? For example, from ads, if you have an ad that compels somebody to click through, if your ad is catchier than the other ads that it's surrounded by, that kind of stuff, that will entice the click through, and that's what you want. But the same goes for SEO in that the click-through rate from Google search. So somebody goes to Google search and types in a query, or as we just mentioned, they verbally speak a query into this their mobile device, and they look at the search results. If they click through to your particular website or to your Google My Business listing or whatever the case may be, whatever they click through to, that's a great signal. It's a great signal because, first of all, you're ranked in the search engines for whatever that query was. And I mean, hopefully you're ranked for that. That's something you ultimately want. But if somebody clicks through among, let's say that there's 10 results on the page and they click through to your result, then there's obviously a reason that they click through. It's your titles and your meta descriptions were optimized and compelling enough to where it, enticed them or encouraged them, to compel them to click through. But then if they engage on the page, so again, click-through rate in itself is not the be-all, end-all. You want some sort of engagement on that page, and that engagement can be measured in any number of ways. It could be dwell time, so how long they stay on the page. It could be scroll depth, which means, if they're scrolling through the page to go further down the page to read more of the content or view more of the content or whatever the case may be. So scroll depth is another one. Clicking through to other pages on the site from that first landing page that they landed on, that's another one. Submitting a form or a contact request form or something like that, any sort of submission would also be another way to improve engagement on a page. Is have a video or an audio player that they click to press the play button, because that's just another engagement signal. Or accordion menus, so like questions and answers. We just a moment ago spoke about the Hummingbird algorithm. And one of the things that specifically addressed was questions and answers, because people typically speak questions, like whole questions, into Google search now from their mobile devices, instead of just those short little search queries like what I was talking about earlier when people would just type them out. People will voice whole questions, complex questions sometimes in the search. So if you have question and answer sections on your landing pages, and it's the question and it's bolded or whatever the case may be, but it stands out, and then it's got like a plus button or something that you click on it, then it reveals the answer. So that's like an accordion menu. Those are great engagement signals because, again, somebody's engaging with the content on the page. They're clicking through to expand content, to get their questions answered and that kind of stuff. So again, click-through rate in itself is a great signal, but without the engagement signals, in other words, if somebody clicks through from your listing on the search results page, but they don't engage on the page, or they see a page that really is non-relevant to their query, it doesn't satisfy their query, what they were searching for, then they're going to click the back button, and that's considered a bounce. I'm sure you all are familiar with bounce rate, and that can actually accrue and become a negative ranking factor, or a negative ranking signal. So what Google's goal is to provide that, especially on the first page, is the results that are going to satisfy the searcher's query, which leads me back to, again, the Google My Business assets or properties. Because if you think about it, when somebody does a search on Google, if your primary goal is to rank your website, so your own self-hosted website, what are you ultimately doing? You're taking people off of the Google platform to answer their question or to satisfy their query, their need, their interest, because you're taking them from Google search to your own self-hosted website. So now it's off of Google's platform. But by utilizing the Google My Business assets, which includes its own website, it's free, Google My Business website, the posts, again, the posts are a very powerful feature. you can satisfy those search queries with a Google property. And Google is very narcissistic. It loves itself. So if you can satisfy a Google search query and keep that user in the Google ecosystem, Google will reward you for that. And so once again, that comes back to using the Google My Business assets, as well as optimizing for click-through rate, optimizing for engagement. So make sure that your copy is compelling, that you provide options, things that you can encourage the people to engage with once they land on your pages. Those are the kind of things that you can do to improve those engagement signals. And when you do that, that's where the magic happens. Google will reward you with higher rankings, more exposure.
So how does a business get a sense of just how they're doing with their click-through rate on their pages and the engagement on those pages?
Well, for self-hosted websites, it's actually kind of easy because obviously you can install analytics, Google Analytics. There's a lot of data that can be revealed, from having Google Analytics on the pages themselves. But you can also use heat mapping applications. One that we use a lot is called Hotjar or hotjar.com. Which is really cool. It's just this little piece of code you can add to your site, and it will essentially take screenshots or little video recordings of visitors when they land on the page, and it'll show you what their cursor's doing and where they navigate around. And so you can start to optimize your pages for more engagement. So like if you've got a piece of content that from analytics, you're getting a lot of click-throughs, you're getting a lot of traffic to and that's like the entry page that people come to your site on. But they're bouncing back, or they're not engaging, they're not dwelling long, whatever the case may be. You can actually install Hotjar, for example, or any other those type of apps, and start recording what the visitors are doing on those pages, and then start making changes to elements on the page, or adding things or subtracting things to try to get more engagement on those pages. And then that will ultimately, again, as you start to increase the engagement signals, you also increase your SEO value or rank factor, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Is this a one-time sort of exercise, or is this something that you're always having to regularly do and add a little bit more content 6 months from now or a year from now to those high-performing sort of ranking pages, those initial pages, just to get that engagement, boost that engagement along?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously people's search habits change over time, right? I like to think that we're all more sophisticated online now than we were, even 3-4 years ago, right? But for local businesses, honestly, it's not the same as if you were, selling products online. If you were an affiliate marketer, or, have an e-commerce site where you're constantly your money's made from people landing on your pages and then taking action on the pages. For local businesses, most of the time, what is the conversion goal? What is it that you ultimately want? You want somebody to pick up the phone call and call you, or submit a contact request form for a callback, or request driving directions if you have a storefront. And literally, those are probably the 3 biggest conversion goals for local businesses. So the compulsion to try to constantly tweak and improve conversion rates on those pages isn't necessarily as critical as it is to an e-commerce site would be, or for an affiliate marketer, or any sort of online sales funnel. And so my point is, with local businesses, I'll be 100% honest with you. I get it to where it's just good enough to where we get a high percentage of visitors that convert either via phone call, web form submission, or, again, clicking driving directions or whatever, if it's a storefront type business. And then once I've got it to a point where it's converting well, we leave it alone, because otherwise, you can drive yourself crazy. You can end up always optimizing. You will never end up finding a page that will convert as much as you want it to. So there's the law of diminishing returns. That's what I was getting at. Try to make it as good as you can to get the kind of results that you want. And then from there, kind of leave it alone. And then, of course, like I said, as our habits evolve, I wouldn't say you do it one time, you get it to where you want it, in 3 years, 4 years down the road, it's still the same page. Obviously, you can go in and add and stuff. But I would say to keep costs lower, or time to where it's reasonable, manageable, then for my local business clients, I typically just get it to a point where it's good enough. It's producing higher than the industry average, and then we leave it at that.
Okay. Well, you kind of get to a point there. I'm just wondering, is this better to be done, is this better to hire an agency like you, or is this work that can be done in-house, whether it's the business owner or if they have a marketing team, the marketing team?
Well, that's a great question. If they have marketing, like an in-house marketing team, or even just an in-house marketing person, which sometimes can even just be an employee that does some of the marketing, right? Not necessarily a marketing professional. I deal with a lot of contractors, and so a lot of personally in my own agency, and a lot of contractors don't have, unless they're bigger companies, don't have marketing teams or even necessarily an in-house marketing person, but they'll try to do some of the marketing on their own. Look, I encourage business owners to do what they're good at that produces them revenue. Obviously, marketing, there's a direct correlation between good or effective marketing and your bottom line as a business owner. But if that's not if business owners should be running their business, managing and operating their business, not necessarily doing all of the marketing. If they have an in-house person or team already, then absolutely it's something that they can do. For example, just going back to what we started talking about, which was the Google My Business stuff, that's all free stuff. Like, it's not that difficult to learn how to optimize that stuff and then start engaging, posting frequently and consistently and regularly, and targeting the type of search queries that you want the business to be found for. Like, is again, the different types of queries, both verbal type of queries, questions and answers are great types of content to produce. Those are things that should be done consistently and repeatedly and frequently in order to start getting more results from Google. And that's something that can absolutely be done by an in-house team or an in-house staff member if that's what their job duties are. And it doesn't even have to be a full-time thing. But once again, unless that business has that in-house person or team, then I recommend outsourcing that so that the business owner doesn't distract from what's generating revenue, which is managing and operating the business, to learn marketing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, sure. I'm just wondering too, or if you can just say it for us, is the importance. A lot of these activities are lost on business owners or managers, but you're making a small tweak to a quick click-through rate can have long-term sort of ROI benefits, right? Uh, can you talk about that at all, or?
Well, okay, so that's a great question. For example, if you are, let's use the click-through rate again from search results. It's very similar to if you're familiar with Google Ads and search ads. You know that you constantly want to be tweaking or split testing your headlines, which are the big part of the ad essentially, to try to increase the click-through rate. And the higher click-through rate that you get, typically the higher quality score for the ad, which means you can actually pay less per click and you generate more traffic. Google rewards those because it's the same thing for search stuff. So when it comes to optimizing to compel that click from the searcher, you want to optimize your title tags as well as your meta descriptions to be like ad copy. One of the things I see a lot of local businesses do is they have just very boring, plain, kind of generic type title tags, and even the meta description, which that's that line or two of text underneath the bolded link or title in the search results. So, but you should be using that as like ad copy. Like, you should be optimizing that and split testing that stuff on a regular basis to try to determine what is going to give you the best click-through rate. Because as we've been talking about, first of all, if your headline or your title and your meta description is more compelling than the others, and let's go back to my contractors examples. Most contractors are just very plain or generic in their optimization of their title tags and meta description, and they'll say like, tree service plus city, we provide tree removal and tree trimming services in city, give us a call. Well, that's kind of, generic, and most all companies will do that or some variation thereof. Whereas if you can be a little bit more creative and work your keyword into it, but, maybe have it stand out, ask a question, like looking for tree service in plus a, question mark, something like that. And then have something a little bit more compelling underneath as far as the meta description that can actually act as ad copy and compel people to click through, which ultimately will help to improve the SEO as well.
Excellent, sir. Bradley, I appreciate your time today. How do I, if folks want to learn more about you, where should they go?
They can go to semanticmastery.com/rethink. And they can find out about our Hump Day Hangouts, which is free. That's our weekly Q&A webinar series. We also have what's called a battle plan, which is a step-by-step guide that you can purchase for very inexpensive that will help you to optimize your web assets. And then we also have our Mastermind, which is our monthly coaching program, which is our top-level tier program for people that want to learn all the ins and outs of digital marketing.
Excellent, sir. Hey, I appreciate your time today. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Have a topic you would like us to consider for the podcast? Email us at podcast@acton.com. We would also appreciate it if you would subscribe to our Apple Podcast channel and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to making the show better.